President Biden and Donald Trump won their respective primaries in Michigan last night.
That's right. These latest victories make it look even more likely that they will square off in the general election in November. And while the president had an easy win, there was a movement in Michigan to protest his support for Israel as it continues its attacks in Gaza. More than 100,000 people voted for uncommitted, though it's unclear exactly how many of those were protest votes. And on the GOP side, this marks Trump's fifth primary win over Nikki Haley. The former South Carolina governor won only 26% of the vote.
But she is vowing to stay in the race, at least through next week's Super Tuesday contest, despite her recent losses.
CBS News campaign reporter Aaron Navarro is in Michigan with more on last night's results. Aaron, great to see you in a Michigan or Detroit alleyway there. Nikki Haley showing some cooling momentum with this race marking her largest margin of a loss to Trump since, Governor DeSantis dropped out. So what motivations does she have to stay in this through Super Tuesday?
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is the sixth state now that she has lost to former President Trump by double digits. This one, she barely got a third of the vote. But a couple of reasons that she's established for why she's staying in the race. One, she's the only challenger left. And to her, there is still a base of Republican voters that are adamantly against Trump. And something I heard when I was covering Governor DeSantis, as you mentioned, is that there are voters that are looking for a sort of insurance candidate in case something happens to Trump in his legal cases. But the other thing to note is the money. Nikki Haley does have, her campaign says they are doing well in fundraising. They're about to go to Super Tuesday states, big money states like California and Texas, where they're expected to hold fundraisers and get even more cash to sustain the campaign and what seems and is growing in their long shot challenge to former President Trump.
Yeah, if the money's not dried up, she's in for it. But let's talk about the Democratic side, because something significant happened there in Michigan. The large number of people who voted uncommitted in the Democratic primary. Talk to us about what it means. Give us some context. And should we expect something similar to take place next week on Super Tuesday?
Yeah, historically, the uncommitted vote, the highest percentage-wise at least, it got recently, it was in 2008 when Barack Obama wasn't on that ballot. So there was a push to kind of support him through that vote. But looking at 2012, when you got about 20,000 uncommitted votes. But in this one, you have about 5 times that, 100,000. And part of that is because of a push by Arab American, Muslim, and progressive groups to kind of cast that protest vote against President Biden and his response to what's happening in Gaza. But when you look especially at Michigan, this is a state that is a battleground state. The margins have been slim before, only 10,000 in 2016. And a lot of the voters on the ground have told me that they are looking to stay home, that they cannot support President Biden. Obviously, we'll see if that changes in the months leading to November. But Democrats and President Biden need every vote they can get in this crucial state.
It's a great point, Aaron. And I'm wondering, based on the people you've been speaking with, how much of what we just saw in Michigan might be emblematic of what will take place during November's general election. You know, if Arab Americans, if those in Dearborn and elsewhere feel like Biden, they're protesting his support of Israel, if it's a choice between Biden and Trump, will that make a difference?
From talking to a handful, and this is just the sample size in Dearborn, a heavily Arab American concentrate there, they say that it doesn't really matter. They think that the Biden campaign using that binary choice as a way to kind of entice these voters to come back instead of taking a deeper, harder look at the policies that the Biden administration and the rhetoric in regards to Gaza. They signal at least these more diehard, I guess, uncommitted voters and groups that they are not going to vote for President Biden. But it is interesting to note other states this is going to take place in. Potentially, Minnesota has an uncommitted option. Colorado has something similar. So we'll see if they can take what's happened here in Michigan, which does have the most Arab Americans in the country, percentage-wise, and replicate that in other states.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they took the time and the effort to go to the polls to say uncommitted. All right, Aaron, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.